Hey friends, it's Rick here. It's Sunday morning on 9/11. When I reviewed my YouTube stats for the past since I started, by far and away the most popular video was the last week's 10 stocks to watch. So with that in mind, I think people must have liked it. So I will repeat it here again, or not repeat it, but we'll do it here again today. I'll review the top 10 from last week and then a new batch of stocks that are on my radar, and maybe make this a weekly thing. First off, how did the week go? As usual, my weekly chart is here on the left, the daily is on the right, and this is the S&P 500. So last weekend, we had previously 3 ugly weeks, 3 weeks down, and things were looking ominous. So my buy list was pretty sparse. What happened on the Tuesday or after Labor Day, we had this, what I call a failed breakdown. So we broke down beneath this level here, but failed to hold it and then rebounded very nicely over the next 3 days. So that's a good positive sign. Although, I mean, we still are in a decided downtrend. So we're now in what I would call a chop zone. We got some resistance here. We're still in a downtrend. So we could easily just chop around here. It's just not going to be green lights for this thing to go ripping back this way. So that's my sort of take on it. So let's review last week's top 10, and these are all in alphabetical order. The first was ARLP, and I actually bought this one. I had drawn a downtrend line here. I bought the breakout at entry price was $25.95, I believe it is, and it really hasn't done anything. It didn't carry on like I had hoped, so it's mushing around. So not sure where this is going to go. I do look at the other, this is a coal stock, and if I look at some of the other players, Peabody Energy has suffered a lot worse. CEIX is another one, and it's down even more. And the third one is ARCH. And so all the coal stocks really got hit this week. So actually what's promising about ARLP is that it's actually held up very well. So it's showing relative strength against the group. So we'll stay with that and stay on the list. Actually, it's still viable in my opinion. Next one was BJ. And this had a nice week, big week here. I missed this entry. There was an entry potentially draw a line across here that was viable at that point. I missed that. I didn't take that entry, but it's now got a little extended. I'm removing it from the list for this week. Next was Enphase. And this had a really good week, although it did have sort of an off day on Friday. Bought this one coming out of this downtrend line here. My entry price was 284, scaled out some more, got stopped out at 299 on Friday, and then I've re-entered it, and I'm just looking for another place to add to this. So this one definitely stays on the list. Next is EVH. I also bought this one from my list. I bought this at 36.73, I think it is, something like that. Again, coming out of this downtrend, and it's moving up nicely. It's a little extended to buy now. I would wait for a pullback if anybody's looking to get into this one. Next was lithium, LTHM, and again, I missed this entry. The clear entry was this here on Wednesday, And I got an alert, but I didn't take it. And now it's got somewhat extended. It did pull above the previous high over here in the weekly chart, and then did what we call a squat. It actually had a very poor finish. It finished right near the low of the day. So this one could be viable, but not quite yet. We need this to settle down and see where it's going, but I'll keep that one on the list. MNTK, again, another downtrend line break. I did not buy this one, and it had a touched the new high, and then squatted a bit and closed in the lower part of the daily range. So not entirely positive, but this was definitely worth keeping on the list. And FE, I did buy. Again, there was a better entry. Well, actually, I ended up getting the same entry. If I draw this line here, the entry would have been around 57.42. It went through that, and then it had an earnings, or not an earnings, it had some sort of downgrade on Friday, which God only knows why, because this still has great fundamentals. So I ended up buying this one. I can't remember what my entry price is, but I'm nicely in a profit here. I got right near this low, actually. And this is worthy of keeping on a list. This is still a very good pattern. The ninth one was PDD. And I wasn't really fussy about this one, and I'm still not. I think this just needs more time. This just needs to base here a little bit longer. It had a big rise here, another one. It just needs to consolidate on the weekly. So if this would just go sideways for a little bit, maybe 2-3 weeks, and then so I'm taking that off the list for the time being, but I'll put it on a separate watch list. And the last was VRTX. And again, it had a good week, and I did not take this entry that was obvious in here, but this is staying on my list as a potential for this week. So that's the review of the ones from last week. By and large, they all turned out pretty good, but then again, the market was up 3 days, so all boats rise in a rising tide. This week's, they actually have 15 to review, and I'm not going to go into the MarketSmith fundamentals like I did last week with all of these. Just take it as a given that all of these stocks on this list have great fundamentals, good earnings, rising sales, strong institutional support, and the like. So I won't bore you with all of that detail, but suffice to say they've got good fundamentals going for them. First is in technology, or in the solar space as well. And good basing pattern, no clear entry yet, but this is definitely to keep on the list for a watch. Similar pattern here. It's getting a little choppy here, so I would like this to sort of settle down and go sideways here a little bit for another 2-3 weeks. This is Ardmore Shipping, so it's I think what do they do? Oh, ASC, wrong symbol, sorry. They seaborne transportation of petroleum products. So the shippers have been a good space to be in. Next is Calyx. Again, you see a similar pattern. Now, this is like my style. Looking for a base and then looking for a breakout, or looking for a downtrend line break. This one actually gave it to us here on Friday, but didn't really hang on to it, just sort of mushed around. So this could be viable on Monday above around $59. The difficulty with this, you have my stop at that level would be around 55. So that's about a 9% stop, and that's just too big for me. So I'd look for a tighter entry. CLMT, again, nice basing pattern right at the highs. Nice little move up. This green line here was the all-time high, or all-time high from before, from several weeks back when I've been watching this one. So I like to draw a line at the 52-week or the all-time high and see how the stock reacts around that level. Oil and gas name, Denbury. Again, I'm not a big fan of oil and gas, but this one is showing a good pattern. It was if I go back several weeks, this was a market darling back in 2021, and when it straight up from like $10 to $100 almost. So now it's just consolidating, but it's worthy of keeping on the watch list. I don't see it. It's basically followed the markets. I don't see a logical entry quite yet, but it's on the watch. Dycom Industries, again, set new highs 2 weeks ago, pulled back, has broken that trend line. So the obvious entry was on Friday. It's now a little extended from that, but if it pulls back a little bit and settles in here for a day or two, is worthy of a look. Another oil and gas name, EQT. Again, a very similar pattern, basing at the highs, no clear entry that gives me a decent risk reward yet, but see what happens later in the week. Grief, this one gave me some grief. I actually bought this high right when it broke the all-time high up here. Take this line out. Anyway, it broke that high, I bought it, and then got stopped out underneath here when it failed to carry on. Now it's pulled back quite considerably, actually, more than I would like. But I was looking at their fundamentals and they're fantastic. So this is worthy of a look when it sets up a little bit better. Humana, huge healthcare company. Again, it's pulled back for 3 weeks. So if it starts to pull back up, especially if it gets, it closed below the 10-week moving average. So if this week, if we can climb back above that, there could be a viable entry in here for a good move. If you look at this one, it's been basing for quite some period of time, but it's broken out of this base. And now it's just coming back to the top of the box, as I call it, and then look for a rebound back up again. IRTC is one of the top of my list, but I can't really find a decent entry point without, I mean, if we take it at over 165 over this high, the logical stop is way the heck down here. That's just like 20%. That's just way too much. And even stopping it below the 8-day moving average is about 8 or 9%. That's just too much for me. So I want this one to settle down a little bit. The ranges are too big. Couple more to go here, 3 more to go. NFG, this is a national fuel gas. This is basically a utility, so you're not going to have big wild moves, but this one looks to be completely viable on Monday. Anything above 71.44-ish with a stop down at 69.70. So that's what, $2.50, less than $2. So that's about a 3% stop. That fits my criteria. So, my entry would be here and my stop would be down here. An old favorite, I've been watching this one for weeks, it seems. You can see from the weekly chart here, it's just going sideways. I wanted to tighten up a little bit. It's putting in a sort of what we call a VCP pattern. These pullbacks are getting shallower, and so, but it hasn't got a logical entry point unless we buy it above 498, and then it's going to hit the round number 500 and stall it there. So it's just worthy of sticking on the list and watching how this behaves over the next week or two. NXST, again, a good weekly pattern. Spread this out a bit. You had 3 weeks down, and then the big wide engulfing bar. So it took out this low here and then quickly rebounded during the week. It shows up. Actually, most of that rebound happened on Thursday and Friday. So it's chasing it a little bit if we get in now. See what happens Monday and Tuesday, if this can settle down a little bit and then head back up. Another oil and gas stock, PBF. There's too many oil and gas ones. I just don't like trading them, but you can't ignore good patterns. Again, this one had a big wide range bar that engulfed about the previous 2 weeks trading. And this week it's gone inside, what we call an inside week. So, which means it's probably buyable above 34.61, the high of the week, and a stop at 30, just under $32, which would be the low of the week. I haven't done the math on that to see what the percentage is, but it looks like it will meet my criteria. And then finally, United Health, another healthcare group. 3 lower lows, an inside week. Great rising 40-week moving average. And here again, this one is going to be a high focus on Monday or Tuesday. If it gets above that downtrend line. I haven't done the math on this, but the entry is around 528. Stop is at 513. So it's that $15 stop. That's 3%. That meets my criteria. So the way I look at it, if I'm willing to risk 3%, I want to get at least somewhere between 6 to 9%. So a 6% gain would be 6 5s are $30, so it makes it up about 550, which coincides with the previous high, so that is quite reasonable. It meets my risk reward parameters. So that's the skinny on my top 10 focus list. I think I'll stop there, and we'll do another video following this one rather than make this one too long. I'll do a separate video and I'm going to review all of the sectors, the Canadian sectors and the US sectors. And for you longer term index investors, let's just have a look and see if there's any sectors setting up this week that might get us back into the market, because right now we're sitting in 100% cash. So that's it. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you Monday.